Live and direct from the free speech zone called America. The weekend home for truly radical progressives. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ.
Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to the weekend. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, here for another 2 hours of radical progressive talk for you and me, the great American people out there that are working hard for a living and just trying to survive paycheck to paycheck in George W. Bush's neocon nightmare. Our phone number here is 888-7-RADICAL. That's 888-772-3422, and this is the place to come to talk. If you just want to talk about politics and you're not quite sure what's happening, we can all get through this together. We can learn from each other. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, independents, Greens, libertarians, I don't care. Get on the line. Give me a call. Let's figure this all out. We're all in this together. Great to be here. We got a lot of stuff coming up on the show today. A special guest will be joining us in our next segment, Ed Ross, who is the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. And boy, with this stock market collapse that we're all living through right now, everybody's got a lot of questions. I know I do, and I'm not exactly an economic expert, so we'll get Ed to break it down for us. Also coming up, of course, later on in the show, our Lunatic Fringe Awards. We got some special Lunatic Fringery and a new Lunatic Fringe winner that we've never had before, so stay tuned for that. In our second hour, we're also going to be looking at the newest unemployment figures, a look at the so-called voter registration frauds from Acorn, and some looks at adult stem cell research, Hurricane Ike, and spying on our troops. But before we get to all that, let's make sure that we welcome the man across the continent who comes to us from London, England, our very favorite immigrant worker, a man who will still work for an American dollar, Stevie Webb on the boards.
I will. More fool me, apparently. I'm so glad now that, people pay me in food and dead voles and bits of moss and things like that.
It's getting to be that way, isn't it?
I can't actually invest in the stock market, and I never have been able to. And now it's like, ha.
Yeah.
I invest in a sock under my mattress.
I guess there's one silver lining to all of this. I just started this radio career a couple of years ago, and I'm completely self-employed, and I don't have any 401k or investments like that. So this is one of those times where I'm kind of going, well, at least I didn't lose anything.
Exactly.
I'm doing okay. But that's not to belittle the people out there that are depending on their investments and 401ks out there that are getting screwed by the people at the top.
Absolutely.
Those rich fat cats from AIG that are out there taking $400 spa vacations while we're bailing them out for billions of dollars. It's just got to end. Oh, boy, we got 5 hours worth of show and 2 hours worth of time to get it in here. And again, we are taking your calls at 888-7-RADICAL. But I know that a lot of you are like me. You work a full-time job for a living, so you don't always have the time to catch up on the newspaper or the evening news. So at the top of the Russ Belville Show, I help you catch up on the week's hottest news topics with
The Week in 90 Seconds.
Senator John W. McCain and that one have their second debate.
You know who voted for it? You might never know. That one. You know who voted against it? Me.
Supporters at the Palin and McCain rallies have gotten a bit cheeky as of late.
Who is the real Barack Obama?
The stock market loses 22% in its worst week ever.
Greed is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
So naturally, the Republican candidates want to talk about a college professor who set bombs when Obama was 8 years old.
Our opponent is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to pal around with terrorists who targeted their own country.
Speaking of Sarah Palin, she's found guilty of illegally abusing her authority in the Troopergate case in Alaska.
In what respect, Charlie?
AIG executives spent $400,000 for an executive spa retreat after we bailed them out for $85 billion. Now they want $38 billion more.
It's good to be the king.
With unemployment at 7-year highs, the White House opposes extending jobless benefits.
Getting back to work would be the best way to help all of us collectively, them individually, and then us as a country.
Government wiretappers find it funny to pass around clips of our troops' intimate phone conversations.
From now on, you will speak only when spoken to.
And speaking of sex and Sarah Palin, Hustler Video is shooting a new porno movie called Nailin' Palin. Oh yeah, Nailin' Palin coming out from Hustler Video, starring a young actress lady type person by the name of Lisa Ann. And I got to tell you, I would trust Lisa Ann as vice president more than I would trust Sarah Palin. This is the most unbelievable thing. And I'm wondering too, how come it's taken so long to get these porno movies out about the candidates here? I mean, I don't remember them putting out any Humpin' Hillary videos. What happened to that? Or how about Condoleezza Rice? I mean, Condoleezza, there's a name rife with porn pun possibilities. I mean, come on, that's too easy. But the Sarah Palin video is coming out, and we'll review that purely from a objective political standpoint. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up here is the recent stories and the recent reports of the people at these rallies, at these Palin-McCain rallies, and the hatred that's being stirred up. You heard a lot of this, of the people in the crowd shouting terrorist or traitor, and I just wanted to play something for you. I've been looking around on YouTube and trying to get a little more information on this and catch these things. And both in Ohio and in Pennsylvania, when there were rallies there, some intrepid young filmmakers or YouTubers, whatever you want to call them, went out there and filmed the people that were out in line, waiting to get into the McCain and Palin rallies. And this is just a little quick collection that I made of some of their opinions. These are just your average, normal folks standing out in line in Ohio and Pennsylvania to attend a McCain or a Palin rally.
Do you think he's a terrorist?
I think he's a one-man terrorist cell.
Do you think he's a terrorist?
I think he could be. Could be.
He's a terrorist?
He's got the bloodlines. I think he is.
You do? Why?
He's got the connection.
Because look at his name.
Okay.
And Mindy Green thinks Barack Obama's a terrorist.
I do.
That guy gets elected, he hangs around with terrorists.
Obama's a terrorist, don't you know that?
Obama's a Muslim, he's a terrorist himself.
Commie faggots!
Commie faggot!
A terrorist.
Screw Obama! Boo! Die! Bill Ayers, you scumbag!
You think they should die, sir? You think they should die?
Everyone dies, don't they?
Everyone dies, don't they? That's the man.
Yes, I think they should die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Yeah, these are the people that are going into those McCain and Palin rallies, and they're criticizing the pro-Obama supporters that are across the street, protesting against them. One of the funniest things in the clip on the YouTube that was quite funny to me is when they started yelling at the protesters, "Get a job, go get a job. You need to go get a job." Like, wait a minute, aren't you guys going to a McCain rally during work hours? I mean, just okay. So protesting the rally are a bunch of loser deadbeats that need to get a job, but attending the rally are not. I don't really get that. But this is something that the McCain and Palin campaign have really been taking a serious look at, because they're getting hammered on this in the mainstream media, saying, you got to be careful with this kind of hateful rhetoric. It's already a scary enough proposition that we've got the first African-American man who's going to become president, and plenty of redneck type racists out there that would, just need a little bit of a push to go and get a few of their assault weapon arsenals that they've got built up in those militia type states and do something about it. So they're a little nervous. McCain and Palin people, they know they've got to stock up. They got to foment the hate a little bit. They got to get that hate juice going, because got to distract people from the economy, got to distract people from the war, got to distract people from all the healthcare issues and the foreclosures and all the reasons to vote against Republicans this year. Got to distract them, got to point them toward the hate. But they run the risk of pointing them a little too much toward the hate. And so McCain, I think, this is an interesting thing about McCain. It's like the McCain of 2000 doesn't exist anymore. we're dealing with this new Karl Rove inhabited John McCain. It's like the Day of the Daffodils or the invasion of the body snatchers there, where they're taking over his demeanor. And McCain seems genuinely upset about this. I'm going to give him all the credit in the world here, is that McCain does seem like he thinks this has gone too far and it's a bit dangerous. And check out the way his crowds reacted to him when he said that they need to be respectful of Barack Obama.
The people here in Minnesota want to see a real fight this next time in your debate. We want a strong president to lead us for the next 4 years.
And we want to fight, and I will fight. But we will be respectful. I admire Senator Obama and his accomplishments. I will respect him. And I want everyone to be respectful. And let's make sure we are, because that's the way politics should be conducted in America.
So you catch that at that very middle part there where he says, I respect Senator Obama, and his crowd boos him. They boo him for saying something like that.
He is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States.
Well, I'm glad he realizes that Barack Obama is going to be the President of the United States. I'm Radical Russ. Coming up here in our next segment, we are joined by Ed Ross, who is the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth, also at the website edsforecast.com. And he's an expert on this real estate financing and the mortgage crisis and everything that's happening on Wall Street. So we'll get his answers here to the problems, and we'll talk about that in our next segment. We'll also take your questions for Ed Ross and myself at 888-7-RADICAL. This is the Russ Belville Show. We're right back after these short messages.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, Contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world one light at a time.
The voice of the everyday American. It's time for Radical Russ. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. 22 after the hour.
Now it's time for the big story.
Oh my, what a big story you have.
Thanks. Now here's Radical Russ.
That's right. Our big story is the continued economic collapse on Wall Street. The Dow lost 1,874 points over the last week, a drop of 18.15%, and marking the worst week ever in the stock market's history since its inception in 1896. The second worst week was in 1933 during the Depression, and the third worst week was the week after 9/11, after the stock markets opened on 9/11. The Dow is now 40.67% off of its market peak just a year ago of 14,164. We're now closing in the below or the low 8,000 territory. And to discuss this big story with me, I got to bring in some big guns because my economic expertise is not the greatest in the world. So I bring you the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. Ed Ross is joining us by telephone. And Ed, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, Ed, there's a lot of scare and concern here about the economy, and sometimes I feel that average Americans looking at this, they have an idea that there's a lot of greed and corruption involved with this scandal, but there's so many names and players, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and AIG and all these, terms as far as bank rates and LIBOR and all that confuse a lot of people. So, in a nutshell, can you just kind of explain what got us into the mess we're in and what we're going to have to do to fix it?
Absolutely. And, unfortunately, it is so difficult the way they do it on the news for people to understand this. And in reality, it's fairly simple. What happened is that the banks have been deregulated over the last decade or so, and they became even more deregulated over the last 5 years. And what happened is that, anybody who wanted to buy a house would go down to their local bank on the corner and say, hey, I'd like to get a home loan. Well, those people that, they really didn't have good credit, didn't have great jobs. They were all trying to get in the game of making money on real estate, so they went to the bank too, and the bank said, sure, I'll give you a loan even though your credit score is low and you don't have a great job and you don't make a lot of money. And you'd say, why would the bank do that? Well, the reason is that the bank said, we have no problem taking these on our books because we're going to sell them to Wall Street, to
right.
Lehman Brothers and some of the big guys. And then Lehman Brothers was taking them because they said, no problem, we'll sell them to Ireland and Europe and other banks. So what happened it was like this pyramid scheme, where you go into your local bank and they'd sell theirs off to Wall Street, and then Wall Street turned around and sell it off internationally, and everyone kept trying to keep most of it off their books. The problem was the greed set in, and they started out with maybe 3% on their books, and it went to 5% on their books, and it went to 20% on their books. 20% of the bad loans were on their books. So everyone had these leftover loans, that they and then everyone said, I don't want them anymore because we know they're bad, they're foreclosing. At that point, when they started foreclosing, the banks, believe it or not, because they've been deregulated, were allowed to have, can you imagine an American having this kind of situation? They were allowed to have 35 times the debt. Some of the biggest banks in the world had 35 times the debt versus the amount of cash in the bank.
Yeah, I was seeing that Bear Stearns, for example, was running a leverage ratio of 33-1.
Exactly. So you're talking about, that means you have 33. Could you imagine if you had $33 in debt for every $1 you have? You wouldn't even be able to make your mortgage payment. You wouldn't be able to make any car payment, nothing. Because we all get our paycheck every week, right?
Yeah.
And that pays off other things. We always have a little more cash from that paycheck than what these lenders had. So what happened was the greed set in. They were not regulated. And what happened was that when the real estate started crashing, nobody had cash to service these loans, and
Right.
that's where we're at right now. So what have we been doing as Americans? We've been trying to hopefully do what they call, instead of a bailout, but it's really kind of a bailout right now. We're hoping for a rescue plan. A rescue plan means that we either give cash to, which we've been doing at the federal level, to these banks. We give them cash. We help them insure their cash. That's the FDIC insurance and stuff like that. And hopefully that means that there is more stability in the banking system and they'll start lending to each other. But right now, that LIBOR rate, that's the rate, the 1-month rate that banks interlend to each other. All these banks need money, right, because they're all poor. So some of the banks are a little richer, and they can lend money to the other bank down the street, but they're afraid to lend because they know that their ratios are bad, and they don't want to lose their bank. So what's happening is that we're trying to stimulate, the federal government is trying to stimulate the banks by making the lending rate lower, by buying stock in banks, by buying some of these mortgages that are bad on the books, and then hopefully freeing up cash so each bank will lend to each other so we can start stimulating the economy. The bad news is right now, it's not happening. And that's why Wall Street went down over so much, more than we've ever seen in history.
And you know what really gets me about this, and again, we're speaking with Ed Ross, who's the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. What gets me about this is to see some people that are trying to pin this, wholly, 100%, on people taking out the bad loans, kind of this blame the victim mentality. When you look at stuff like, look at these micro lending programs that they do. New York Times just reported on one where they try to help working poor in New York's outer boroughs, where out of like 3,900 homes that they made loans on, they had fewer than 10 defaults. It's not like the poor people, are inherently bad here trying to get these loans. It has a lot to do with what the lack of regulations and the Wall Street greed will allow them to take out, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Just think about it. Some of the people that went in and got the loans knew darn well they couldn't pay them back. So they just came in and said, "Would you give me $100,000, $200,000 to buy a house?" And the bank said, "Sure, here it is."
Exactly.
Well, what do you mean, here it is? I mean, that's almost like doing, like a mafia control. Walk out on the street and say, "Give me some money, I'll give you my life."
And the other thing that gets me on this one, and my wife's a big fan of these shows, the flip this house kind of thing. A lot of these people that went out and they knew they couldn't afford the loan when the arm went up, in 2 years, but they figured, oh, we'll flip it by then. There'll be no problem.
Well, and that's all. I'll be frank with you. They were thinking that, but so were the banks. The banks were saying, "Oh, I can give this loan because you know what? Even if the guy gets in trouble, he can sell the house." Well, come on. Everyone knows that everything goes in cycles. I don't care what you're buying or what you're doing. You've never seen stock always go up. It always goes up and down. I mean, gradually it always goes up over time, hopefully. But, I don't care what investment you make. It is normal, emotional, psychological methods of markets that they go up and down.
That's right. Now,
the guys should have known better. The guys that were at the highest levels of our government, the federal level and the banking level, they all should have known.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And Ed Ross, author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth, I want to get more of your opinions on this, but we're up against a hard break. Can you stick with us through the break?
Sure.
All right. We'll also take your calls here at 888-7-RADICAL. This is the Russ Belville Show. We're talking about the big stock market fall and the foreclosure crisis. If you got your questions for Ed Ross, give us a call, 888-7-RADICAL. We'll be right back.
working class, and damn proud of it. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back, everyone. It is 35 after the hour. Let's go out and listen to the good people of North America and get your opinions. It's time to let our leaders know how we feel and bring the power to the people. We're here talking about the real estate collapse, the foreclosure crisis, the stock market crash, whatever you want to call it. We're joined by Ed Ross, the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. And Ed, thanks for hanging on.
Sure.
Hey, another thing I wanted to get back to is talking about Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, spoke about this just the other day. Let me play you a clip just real quick.
U.S. and global financial markets continue to be severely strained. A chain of events caused by the ongoing housing correction has reverberated through U.S. banks and financial institutions and has seriously impacted the underlying economy, reaching American households and businesses. A root cause of this situation is a housing correction and a lack of confidence in mortgage assets, as well as a lack of confidence in many of the financial institutions that hold these assets.
Now, the way Paulson is talking about that almost makes it sound like it was just some freak of nature, act of God sort of event there that just, there's a housing correction. How much truth is there to that?
Yeah, housing corrections are typical and standard for the last 80 years. The bottom line is that the banks had no cash or cash reserves to handle a little bit of a housing correction. So the reality is that and we can blame it on that because we have to find that as the cause. The real cause is greed in Wall Street, greed by banks, and it's not even the American public who bought the houses. It's because we're talking about foreclosure rates sitting at a few percentage points. It's not like 30% of the homes are going back to banks. We're just talking about, when a bank keeps $33 of debt for every $1 in cash reserves, that's just a shame. I mean, no American can survive that way through a month.
So this housing correction isn't, like Paulson was saying there. The housing correction is a symptom of what's going on, but really it has to do with greed and deregulation.
Exactly. And what has to happen right now, though, to make this stop, and see what's happening right now is the banks aren't able to lend because they're hoarding all their cash, and they're hoarding all their cash because they want to have more cash to pay all the liabilities off, especially for the foreclosures and that. So what's happening right now is that the small businessman is not able to get loans. Yeah. And if they're not able to get loans, they go out of business, or they can't expand, or they can't add employees. Ultimately, it ends up in payroll cuts, and then it hits the American household. We're experiencing that right now because we've been in a recession. We're barely experiencing the major outcome of this clogging of the financial system where loans are not being given to these people. So we're going to be feeling that in 2009. The big question right now comes down to how quickly can you do two things. One, unclog the financial system, and number two, fix the housing situation. There's two things that have to occur, meaning housing values have to start going up. If they keep going down, the debt is just going to look worse on these lenders' books. So, the administration right now is trying to unclog the banking system, and then we're going to see stimulus from whoever gets elected into office next month on how to get housing back up and values up. I still remain somewhat optimistic because, the press, this is a terrible time, and it's a horrible thing, and every American should be standing up and screaming bloody murder over this. But at the same point, I remain optimistic that we're also, self-fulfilling a prophecy of going into a situation that's going to be the worst recession ever. And I think as long as we can unclog this banking system in the next couple weeks, and I'm hoping to hear that news, then I think 2009 is going to be as bad as 2008, but it doesn't have to be much worse, and that's what I'm hoping for.
We're speaking with Ed Ross, who's the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. And Ed, I'd heard something going through some of the news stories here with regards to this $700 billion bailout, which really, of course, is more than $700 billion once you cross the T's, dot the I's, and carry the two. But, first of all, I felt like the American people were strong-armed into this. We've got to do something right now, or things are going to get real bad. So we did something right now, and things still got real bad. So number one is, how much of that $700 billion bailout, is really going to be of any sort of effect, or how long is it going to take? And the number two thing I had on this is I'd heard that some of these companies that are in trouble are reluctant to take some of that bailout money because it comes with the string attached of some controls on executive pay. Is that true? Was I getting that correct?
Yeah, absolutely true. What's happening is they're saying, the Federal Reserve saying, if you need this money, it comes with strings. You may have to pay it back. If we get a preferred stock, as a preferred stockholder, we have the right to say how much your executives get paid.
Right.
And some of that is justified because these executives are getting paychecks. Washington Mutual, he got a signing bonus to sign up 2 weeks before they were merged, and
yeah, like $18
2 weeks
million.
after that he gets another bonus. So he ends up with $14 million for working there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, nice job if you can get it.
And that's all our taxpayer money. So some of it makes sense. But we still regulate the banks, meaning we do. The American Federal Treasury does, the public. So it doesn't really matter what they think. What has to happen is that the regulation has to occur, and our leaders have to start demanding things. And I'm hoping over the next 2 weeks we do that properly, securely, so we protect the American, the typical American stockholder, the typical American homeowner, and the guy that has a job, the working person. And that's really the three ingredients that they have to pay attention to. And the rest of it, I don't really care what they think. The bottom line is, that's why they're regulated. That's why they're a regulated industry.
Another thing, too, is I have this mantra about, I've talked about Reaganomics, this voodoo economics, this trickle-on theory, that you give money at the very top and the largesse will trickle down to the masses. And I've always said we need to flip that around and make it trickle up. Give the money to the people at the bottom. They'll spend it, and it'll wind its way up to the rich. Would you prefer to see more of that in some sort of bailout plan, some sort of plan to help the individual investors or the individual homeowners?
Yeah, it actually has to go to the small businessman.
Yeah.
Because if you look at our job growth over the last 7 years, the bulk of our job growth has all been in small businesses, not at the top. The top has been outsourcing everything in other countries. So it's actually, so really, ultimately, the trickle-down effect can work. It can work if you're talking about new technologies, but what new technologies have we invested in other than a war overseas, which is not new technologies, for the last 7-8 years? And that's the difference between what people called Reaganomics. Reaganomics was defense. Well, defense was here. For every defense job, there were 20 other small, high-tech software companies, everything else that were built from the aerospace and defense. Here, we have no small companies to grow over the last 7-8 years. So the stimulus has to involve small businesses. And I am hearing both candidates now saying that, especially Barack Obama. So it's very, very exciting to think that people are thinking that way. And that may be our saving grace for 2009.
Well, I should hope so, and I would hope that that President Obama's administration would make good on its commitment to invest in what I could consider the Apollo program for the 21st century, in green-collar jobs, in building, like you said, that the trickle-down effect from new technologies that we could develop in developing some of these new energy jobs could be the solution, or part of the solution to this problem.
I personally believe, and I talk about some of this in my book because I talked about this disaster occurring in the banking industry, and then I give people advice on how to get loans when you can't get loans for your house, or getting equity lines, et cetera, and forecasting for real estate wealth. And then I also tell you what's going to happen with the market over the next several years. So when I came out with this book, I had that all in mind. And I personally believe that there's two components that are going to make Americans still remain a leader, or make us go, number 2, number 3, number 4 in the list of wealth. And that is what you said, either creating the green jobs from the bottom up. I'm talking about all across the nation. I mean, the smaller businesses popping into a new technology. Or number 2, because we still lead in medical. And those are the two industries that we have, because they're technology-based and they're education-based, and we still have one of the greatest countries for people who are educated and working force people. So there is you are correct. I am 100% in agreement with you, and I believe, I'm hoping that we go that direction in 2009. That's what I'm counting on.
Well, those are some of my favorite words. You are correct. I love hearing that. Ed Ross is the author of Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth. And before we let you go, Ed, is there a website where people can get more information on your work?
Yeah, go to edsforecast.com, and you can get a free forecast on your home over the next 3 years, what's going to happen with its value. at edsforecast.com, or go ahead and pick up my book at any brick-and-mortar store. If they don't have it, ask them to pick it up for you, or Amazon, and that's Forecasting for Real Estate Wealth.
All right, Ed Ross, thank you for joining us. We hope to speak to you again sometime, and maybe we'll see when we get out of this crisis. We'll see what happens. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you.
All right, this is the Russ Belville Show. We're coming back with the Lunatic Fringe, the latest from the right-wing radio airheads out there. You'll learn how Obama caused the stock market plunge and is a secret Muslim who will instigate a race war to seize ultimate power. Oh, and Magic Johnson faked AIDS. This is the Russ Belville Show. We're back in a minute.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world, one light at a time.
They're still waiting for Bill O'Reilly's response to our loofah joust and falafel off. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back to the show. 10 minutes before the hour, and before we get to the Lunatic Fringe, just want to let you know, if you'd like to see me in person, I will be making a few appearances in the next couple of weeks. Next weekend, I'll be in Berkeley, California at the Normal National Conference down there at the Berkeley Doubletree Marina. And then Monday, October 20th, I'll be in Portland at the Wonder Ballroom in Portland, Oregon for an Artists for Obama rally where I'll be delivering a keynote speech. And for those of you further east, I'll be in Nashville, Tennessee on Monday, November 3rd, the day before Election Day in Nashville, Tennessee at the Bicentennial Mall State Park as part of the Tennessee Freedom Rally. So I hope to meet some of you radical progressives out there on the road as I make a few of these appearances.
All the little radicals out there, brother.
That's right, brother.
Sorry.
That's okay, Stevie. I understand. It's that whole Hulkamania. You still got a terrible case.
Yes, I really do. I do. It's running wild, you know.
It's some of that drug-resistant Hulkamania, apparently. Oh, boy. Well, it is our last segment for the first hour, and you know what time that means. Now it's time for our weekly roundup of the right wing's altered reality. The lunatic is on the grass. From the Guano Loco neocon chicken hawks to the hypocritical American Taliban and the cable news punditocracy, the Russ Belville Show presents the Lunatic Fringe Award, an award dedicated to the politician, pundit, or preacher who said the most ignorant, hateful, or bizarre quote of the week. Now, we just got off the phone with Ed Ross, who talked a lot about this stock market crisis that we're all facing and the plunging American economy, and gave us a lot of really good reasons for what's going on there, the greed and the deregulation and so on. But flipping through the channels, I ended up on the Neil Cavuto show out there on Fox News, where a right-wing radio talk show host I've never heard of named Steve Cordosco gives this brand new reason for why the stock market has plummeted.
I'm looking at the polls. I see who's likely to win office, and I don't have confidence that that individual is going to be able to lead our country to better times. I see a 7-8 point lead. I see who our next president's likely to be, and I don't have confidence in that. You can't outsmart the market. The market always looks ahead. So if it looks as if today this is who we're going to have lead our country, the market is telling us it doesn't like the economic policy of Senator Obama.
Yeah, that's it. The stock market tanked because Barack Obama is winning. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Another one of our lunatic fringers, an old favorite, member of the Hall of Fame, Michael Wiener Savage out there in San Francisco. Wiener. Michael Wiener Savage is as scared to death about the possibility of an Obama presidency.
Reverend Wright is the soul of Barack Hussein Obama. You know that, and I know that.
The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human.
I fear that Obama will stir up a race war. You want to ask me what I fear? I think Obama will empower the racists in this country and stir up a race war in order to seize absolute power. I believe that's what he will do.
Yeah, Barack Obama is going to empower the racists in the country and stir up a race war in order to seize absolute power.
Coming up on the Michael Savage Show, why foreigners smell funny.
No kidding, that's about right. But surprisingly, Michael doesn't win today. He does not win the Lunatic Fringe Award today.
I am shocked.
It is pretty shocking because this time we've got a couple of tag team, examples here on the Lunatic Fringery.
Wow, that's a first on Lunatic Fringe, I think.
Yeah, this first one, two of them as a matter of fact, and this first one comes from Jim Quinn and Rose Tennant explaining how Christians just could not vote for Obama.
A couple of times now I've run into people who are Christians, and they're voting for Barack Obama. I'm going to say this. I don't think you can be a Christian and vote for Barack Obama. Okay?
Well, Barack Obama.
I'm going to say it. No, I'm going to get emails from people.
I don't
give a rip what you send me in the email, okay? I'm not even going to answer your email. I don't think you can be a Christian and vote for Barack Obama.
Yeah, I'm sorry if the truth is politically incorrect, but Obama claims he's a Christian. Muammar Gaddafi.
When he's not being reminded that he's a Christian, he's saying he's a Muslim, but that's okay.
Yeah. My Muslim faith.
You mean you're Christian?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So first of all, the first thing I want to get across on this thing is, so what if he was Muslim? What, like a Muslim can't be an American? A Muslim can't be a patriotic person? A Muslim can't be a good leader? I'm sure Representative Keith Ellison of Minnesota might have something to say about that. We've got to get away from this constant harping on persons' religious beliefs or lack of religious beliefs as a qualification for office. But furthermore, beyond even that, he's not a Christian. He's not a Muslim, obviously, right? He, 20, 30 years in a Christian church. And it always bothers me how they can say he's a Muslim, Obama's a Muslim, he's a terrible Muslim, and in the same paragraph criticize him for being so beholden to Reverend Wright, a Christian pastor, right? It's one or the other, right? He's either a Muslim or he's a radical Christian who, whatever, but you can't have it both ways. But what they're referring to here is when he was on, Barack Obama was on George Stephanopoulos' show, and this is the correction that they're talking about.
You are absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that has not
Christian
come
faith.
My Christian faith. And well, what I'm saying is he hasn't suggested that I'm a Muslim, and I think that his campaign upper echelons have not either.
See, that's the big slip up. That's the big gaffe. He said my Muslim faith. And of course, they completely ignore the entire context of the quote, which had to do with John McCain bringing up or insinuating that Barack Obama was Muslim. And Obama was just trying to say, I don't think that John McCain has tried to insinuate that I'm Muslim. He's saying he's not trying to insinuate anything about my so-called or alleged Muslim faith. That's the big gaffe that all these right-wingers want to hang their hat on. But our winner for today, we can't give it to them. Our winner for today, he's been trying for the last 3 or 4 weeks, Chris Baker out there in Minneapolis, that right-winger.
Wow.
He finally made it. He finally won. He had to get a little help to do it, though. This is Chris Baker and his co-host, Langdon Perry, talking about Magic Johnson.
I'll see. Thanks. What about diseases that are eminently treatable and you can live with for a long, long time quite healthily if you just get some
like
basic
Magic
drugs?
Johnson?
Like Magic with his faked AIDS. Magic faked AIDS.
You think Magic faked AIDS for sympathy?
I'm convinced that Magic faked AIDS.
Yeah, me too.
It falls apart when you get into motivation. I'm not sure why, but I'm pretty sure he faked AIDS.
I got a great email here from
because he's the only cured AIDS guy ever.
Magic Johnson faked AIDS because, there's so much to gain from faking AIDS. You're an NBA superstar. You're going to be on the dream team. You got millions in endorsement deals. Hey, I know. I'll fake AIDS. What in the hell is that all about? And of course,
he just really, really wanted to win the Lunatic Fringe. I bet he doesn't say anything crazy now ever again because he's now won.
Oh, my God. And of course, Magic Johnson had to come out with a statement on this and said, first of all, you got to understand that he's HIV positive. He doesn't have AIDS. He has HIV. But, right-wing idiots like that wouldn't even understand the distinction between the two situations and that this is just too big a thing. But Johnson was cool. He said these guys shouldn't be cut. So we'll have to give them the award for today. So Chris Baker and Langdon Perry for demonstrating tag team ignorance of living with HIV and smearing a man braver than you'll ever be. You're the winner of this week's. I'm Radical Russ. We'll be right back after these messages.
live and direct from the free speech zone called America. The weekend home for truly radical progressives. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show. Glad to have you here. Our phone number here is 888-7-RADICAL, 888-772-3422. Let's get together and talk about what ails us here in this George W. Bush neocon nightmare we're all living through. We're also paying a lot of attention to the elections, and coming up a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about this Acorn situation. You might have heard the righties beating the drums about Acorn and wondered, what the heck is Acorn? We'll talk all about that in our Under the Radar segment coming up next. Also, lots of stuff in the free-for-all and your emails that you sent to radicalruss@gmail.com. I've got a big correction about something I said last week that an email listener wanted to point out, so we'll get to that in the last segment of the show. And, of course, joining us from across the continent, taking the calls and running the boards, we've got a twofer today. We've got Stevie and Tammy joining him in the studio. So, hey, guys, how you doing?
Hey, we're very well indeed, thank you.
Glad to hear it.
The lovely Tammy Cornelius on the phones today. Trying to add a little bit of class to the show.
Yes. We're gonna have to keep it. We're gonna have to keep it on the up and up here. And I guess
apparently so.
If Tammy's here, Stevie, I can't properly thank you for sending me all of those British tabloids you sent me.
Oh yeah.
Stevie went off to London a few weeks ago, and I said, well, when you go, you gotta get me a copy of the Sun, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, this is like your your newsstand tabloid kind of newspapers. Like we would have, like, I don't know, the Inquirer or the Star or something like that.
Yeah.
But the big difference is page 3. Mm-hmm. Turn to page 3 in the Sun. They've got a picture of a lovely British lass with her bristles exposed.
Exactly.
And that's that's a British thing, right?
Tammy's shocked. She's fallen down.
I'm sure. But what really shocked me, though, is he sent me not just the Sun, but you sent me a couple of others. Yeah. And, boy, the Sun just kind of pales in comparison to a couple of others.
Oh, yeah.
It was just wall to wall. It looked like
the
it looked
Daily
like a
Sport. Which
it looked like a party at Hefner's house. I mean,
the Daily Sport actually used to have a Bristol count.
Oh.
On like page 7 or something. And I remember picking up one once. It had a count of 63 in that issue.
63?
63. And what weirds me out is that's an odd number.
Yeah, how does that work? 63. Okay.
Side shot, very tasteful.
I guess so. And the other thing that's been bothering me a lot as of late, and in the first hour I played you some clips of some of these people that are going to these Palin McCain rallies, and they're so riled up and they're so full of hate. And well, you've heard these things. This is like, let me play a couple here for you.
Who is the real Barack Obama? Promised to raise taxes on people making just $42,000 a year.
Traitor.
Across this country, this is the agenda I have set before my fellow prisoners.
Yeah, that is the way it kind of feels here living in America these days, that we're all a bunch of prisoners. It's the kind of thing, John McCain, that would lead a guy to drink.
I will veto every single beer.
Oh, well, I guess that's out. I guess that's out too. All right, well, let's get to our segment here. Neocon regressives like to say that we liberals hate America first. I like to say we liberals love America most. That's why we're so disappointed in how badly regressives trash our reputation and treat our people. So today we help our leaders focus on the plight of the little guy by taking our look at. All right, living in America here, I want to talk a little bit about some new figures that just came out. We talk about the unemployment that's going on here in this country, thanks to the mismanagement of the economy by the Cheney-Burton maladministration. The Department of Labor reported last week that the country shed 159,000 jobs in September. 159,000 jobs just gone, and the unemployment rate is at its highest level in 5 years. The Washington Post is also reporting that unemployment claims are at a 7-year high, and factory orders are sharply down, partially because the small businesses, like we spoke about with Ed Ross earlier, can't get financing. According to the National Conference of State Legislatures, states are being forced to slash spending and cut jobs in order to close a projected $40 billion shortfall in the current fiscal year, more than triple the size of the previous year's shortfall, and the state jobless funds are starting to run out. According to the National Employment Law Project, at least 11 states are facing financial challenges to pay their jobless benefits. So, to address the problem here of 9 straight months of losing jobs in this country, the House of Representatives passed an unemployment extension bill. Now, the idea here is that we'd extend unemployment for all states for 7 weeks. 7 more weeks of benefits to go out to the states to pay people for unemployment insurance. And for the states that have high unemployment, any unemployment above 6%, the bill would allow for an additional 13 weeks of unemployment benefits out there. And, remember here, when we're talking about unemployment benefits, one of the things that the people on the right like to say is, oh, you're taking from the system, you're just scamming off the system. Well, this is a system we all pay into. We all pay into, when we go to work, we pay into these benefits. It makes sense that we should be able to use the benefits that we actually invested in. Now, the White House, on the other hand, doesn't see this the same way. When asked about this was at the most recent White House press briefing, they were asking about this situation of extending these jobless benefits, and especially when you realize Congress isn't in session right now and won't be back until November 17th. So we got a whole month. We got people that have lost their jobs and the money's running out, and they still have a month before anything can even get started here. And Dana Perino, the White House spokesbot, was trotted out here to give the White House's official explanation of all of this and how they don't support extending the unemployment benefits.
I hope that everybody who wants to find a job is able to find a job. I can only imagine the anxiety for people who are looking for a job and can't find one. And it's hard to put myself in their shoes because I haven't been in that situation. But obviously states, and there are many of them that have high unemployment rates, have a lot of people who are suffering. But getting back to work would be the best way to help all of us collectively, them individually, and then us as a country.
Do you get the gist of that? Dana Perino is basically saying, we don't want to extend unemployment benefits because then people won't go back to work. Because, people love being out of work. People love just sitting around and getting an unemployment check. They love that, right? Yeah. They're saying, don't extend the unemployment benefits because we want people to get back to work. Ms. Perino, if people had jobs to go back to, they would go back to work. Just go out and get a job. As if there's jobs out there to get. You just shed 159,000 jobs in September. You've shed jobs for the past 9 months. There are no jobs for people to get. Now, as far as you never having been in those shoes, it'll be nice to see you in those shoes come January 20th, Ms. Perino. And this is affecting real people. I mean, we had the story, we told the story a couple weeks ago about an elderly woman, 90-year-old woman, the past weekend it was, 90-year-old woman who attempted suicide by shooting herself in the chest when the local sheriff tried to evict her from her home because she couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. 90-year-old woman shoots herself in the chest, decides to end it all, because she can't keep up with her mortgage payments because the sheriff is going to evict her. Well, now, according to a new report, Fannie Mae has decided to forgive the mortgage debt of this 90-year-old woman so she can move back into her home when she's recovered from shooting herself in the chest. Now, this is affecting a lot of people, even the sheriffs out there. Tom Dart is the sheriff in Chicago's Cook County. And he's saying he's not going to evict people anymore from their foreclosed homes. His quote here, we will no longer be a party to something that's so unjust. And that's what it is. It's completely unjust. We've got to do something to help keep people in their homes. I cannot believe that for 700, 800, however many billions of dollars we're going to shovel out of our treasury to try to fix this problem, that we can't find some way to help the 90-year-old women and the other people out there who are losing their homes, that is wrecking their families. Those are the people we need to think of first, not these AIG $400,000 spa retreat guys, not these Washington Mutual 3 weeks on the job, $18 million signing bonus guys. We got to think of the American people who are suffering. Get on the ball with this. I'm Radical Russ. We're going to take our short break. When we come back, it'll be our next segment, our Under the Radar. Stick around.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world, one light at a time.
Call now at 1-888-7-RADICAL. We'll even speak slowly for conservatives.
20 after the hour. And that means it's time for our Marijuana Minute. Here in Oregon, nearby Washington County, with crime involving medical marijuana grow sites, the Washington County Sheriff's Office has released a map revealing where Oregon medical marijuana program users and growers' crimes have been committed, despite the fact that the Oregon medical marijuana law says the medical marijuana list shall be confidential and not subject to public disclosure, and that law enforcement agencies may not release or use that information for any other purposes. The sheriff said with narcotics sales, or when growers tell others about their medical marijuana grow sites, armed takeover robberies and serious assaults inevitably occur. So, at this point, he says, we're going against what the state advises and letting people know where these grow sites are located. Nice to know that the Washington County Sheriff thinks that the law is just advice. And this is your Marijuana Minute. All right, so let's get into our other segment here. We promised I'd be talking to you a little bit about this acorn situation, so let's get right to it, shall we? Every week at the Russ Belville Show, we sift through the headlines to find the stories buried in the back pages or ignored on the evening news. Stories our citizens and leaders need to hear. In this segment, we go under the radar. There's a lot of talk coming out of the right wing lately with regards to this housing problem and with regards to the upcoming election. And one of the terms you're going to hear spouted from the talking heads is about this group called ACORN. ACORN. This is the Association of Community Organizers for Reform, Association for Community Organizations for Reform Now. And what they've done here is they have registered people to vote in mass numbers, something like 1.3 million new voter registrations. And what the Republicans want to try to fool you with here is they're trying to say that ACORN is involved with voter fraud. This is something the Republicans always try to say is voter fraud. They're registering illegal aliens, or they're registering dead people. It's voter fraud. First of all, they don't understand the meaning of voter fraud. Registration fraud, maybe. Voter fraud's a different thing. Voter fraud is when someone shows up to try to improperly cast a vote. Since we haven't had the election yet, my righty friends, it can't possibly be voter fraud. Now, if people show up to vote that aren't properly registered, that's voter fraud. But just fraudulently registering is not voter fraud. It is fraudulent registration. Now, as far as this story goes, the thing with ACORN here is that they have been found in Indiana to have processed 2,000 or 3,000 fraudulent voter registrations. But there's some story behind this that you need to understand. First of all, in many states, organizations like ACORN are required by law to turn in every registration card they receive. Okay? So like if ACORN comes up to me and gets me to try to register to vote, and I sign up as Mickey Mouse and I give it to ACORN, by law in some states, they have to turn that in. And you want to blame ACORN for that? No. You blame the person who signed up as Mickey Mouse. And furthermore, Representative Jesse Jackson Jr. from Illinois and the Brennan Center for Justice noted that there's no reports of people actually voting under these false registrations. I mean, think about it. How tough would that be? Suppose you do register as Mickey Mouse, and then you show up to vote. What are they going to let you vote? You know, hi everybody, hi, I'm ready to vote. Now, come on. This is more Republicans trying to get you to think something that's not happening. More Republican projection of what they do and trying to pin it on the Democrats. Okay. Now, furthermore, you got to understand here that when ACORN does get these fraudulent registrations, they turn them in to election officials and provided the election officials with all the info they'd need to pursue or prosecute the people involved in the fraud. Okay? This is kind of like, I mean, imagine you're a store owner. Okay? If you're a store owner and you call the police to pick up a shoplifter, nobody says that you, the store owner, are committing the crime. It's the guy who's committing the shoplifting. Okay, so trying to blame this on Acorn. But again, it's another situation where most people are ignorant. They don't know what the acronym stands for. They hear community organizer. Ooh, wasn't Barack Obama a community organizer? And they kind of put that all together in that little miasma, that little cobweb-ridden section of a brain they've got, and they try to stir it up into being something that it is not. Voter fraud is very, very difficult to pull off. Registration fraud usually happens by accident. Usually somebody messes up in the paperwork or something like this. What was more likely to have actually happened here is that some of these workers at the Acorn place were probably just trying to pad their paychecks, trying to get a little extra dough for having registered more people than they really registered. It will have no effect on the upcoming election. What will have an effect on the upcoming election are the systematic voter suppression tactics that are taken upon by the Republican Party. For example, we are getting stories of people especially in poor and minority neighborhoods, finding handbills and flyers and under the windshield wipers that say, Democrats, don't forget to vote on November 11th. Of course, the election's November 4th, right? We're finding whisper campaigns and push polling where they're saying to these potential voters, potential minority Democratic voters, that undercover cops will be collecting on warrants for traffic tickets at the polling places. Oh, don't go to vote if you've got a warrant, which is completely untrue. Then we got the situation where they always seem to find, plenty of voting machines for the rich white suburban neighborhoods, but in a place like Cuyahoga County, Ohio in 2004, you got 2 voting machines and people waiting in line in the rain for 3-4 hours to vote. We got the Diebold machines, which I just saw a documentary called Hacking Democracy. They're so easily hacked, they can be hacked in under 10 seconds. We got this rumor of them saying, if your house was foreclosed, then you don't have an address and then you don't get the right to vote. We've got these Republican operatives who are challenging college kids who are living out of state, saying, oh, well, if you register, you can't register to vote from your college address because that's against the law, which it is not. College kids have absolutely the right to vote in the state in which they are going to college. And then we find things like in Michigan where 33,000 voters were removed from the voting rolls, 33,000 removed in August, and yet during that month only 7,000 people left the state and only 4,000 moved. Or I'm sorry, 7,000 died and 4,000 moved. So somehow 11,000 people should have been dropped, but 33,000 were dropped. In Colorado, 37,000 people dropped from the rolls in July. During that time, 5,000 moved out of state and 2,000 died. So 7,000 that should have been dropped, but 37,000 got dropped. Same story in Louisiana, 18,000 people dropped off the rolls when only about 5,000 either moved or died. This is systematic, people. This has been proven time and time again in 2000, 2002, 2004, 2006, that the Republicans are out there trying to repress the vote. That is the only way they can win. They know it. And I've just got to hope this landslide for Barack Obama is going to be large enough that it can overwhelm any of the dirty tricks these guys are going to try to pull off, because they're going to. Find your friends. Make sure they're registered to vote. If you're going to a polling place, bring your handy cam with you. Videotape this. We must end this voter suppression in America. All voices must be heard. Or we could just do the sensible thing like what we do here in Oregon and do a complete vote-by-mail system. That's a beautiful thing. If you don't know anything about Oregon's vote-by-mail system, it is fantastic. I got my pamphlet just the other day. I can read up on the measures. I can vote intelligently on my own time. All right, this is Radical Russ. We're going to come back with the free-for-all segment and your calls at 888-7-RADICAL and your emails at radicalruss@gmail.com. Stick around.
America's RR7 secret agent of progressive change.
The name's Belville. Russ Belville.
This is the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back, everyone. 35 after the hour. Glad to have you here. Our phone number is 888-7-RADICAL. That's 888-772-3422. You'll get to speak to the lovely Tammy today if you dial in, so make her day and give us a call. We can talk about anything you want, because right now it's time for the free-for-all segment. That's right. Whatever you want to talk about, all the miscellaneous topics. That's right. All the stories that slipped through the cracks while we were worrying about the Dow plummeting into the 8,000 territory, and trying to watch all those McCain rallies and the crazies out there. But there's a few stories here I wanted to talk about. Before I do, one real quick thing. I want to remind you that if you'd like to catch up with me in the real world, I will be appearing in a few places. First of all, appearing next weekend at the National Normal Conference in Berkeley, California, at the Berkeley Marina, Doubletree at the Berkeley Marina. Be speaking and recording and all sorts of things down there at the Normal Conference in Berkeley. When I return Monday the 20th, I will be appearing at the Artist for Obama benefit at the Wonder Ballroom in Portland, Oregon. I'm the keynote speaker, so be glad to deliver that. If you'd like to be able to get involved with that, we do have an email address, and I'll get that to you in the next segment because I don't have it in my notes right handy. But it's a $25 for adults, $12 for seniors and students out at the Wonder Ballroom to raise money for Barack Obama. And in November, the day before the election, Monday, November 3rd, I'll be appearing at the Bicentennial State Mall Park as part of the Tennessee Freedom Rally. It'll be my first time going to Nashville, Tennessee. I'm really looking forward to it. Also, for those of you who were listening at the beginning of the show, you heard the segment I played about John McCain in the debate referring to Barack Obama as that one.
You know who voted for it? You might never know. That one. You know who voted against it? Me.
So I decided to make a bumper sticker for it. Check out my website, radicalruss.com. I have a great little graphic up there that says, this one is voting for that one. You can download that, print it out, put it in your window, whatever. It'd be nice to see that on a few windshields if I could. All right, so let's talk free-for-all here. One of the free-for-all things I wanted to get across here had to do with a breakthrough in stem cell research. The Bush administration has been against the stem cell research for so long, with all of the rest of the people in the world. The rest of the countries in the world are still researching embryonic stem cells. But this breakthrough comes to us from Germany. Scientists in Germany have discovered that stem cells taken from a man's testicles might be as versatile as embryonic stem cells. The good news is this could lead to huge advantages in stem cell therapy for men. Okay, I guess the question there would be, how do you get those stem cells? Are there needles involved? That's all I need to know. Are there any needles involved? That might be some research that I'm not so sure I could put myself behind, but if you guys want to try it, go right ahead. And another thing about this stem cell thing, the righties, especially those on the hypocristian, evangelical, Talibanic right out there, are completely against the embryonic stem cell research because they say, it destroys a life. All life begins at conception, which, negates the idea of them ever going to a fertility clinic again, since these fertility clinics create, dozens and dozens of fertilized eggs and then freeze or throw the rest of them away that aren't used. I don't seem to have a problem with that when, Mary Kay, a religious person out there in Missouri, wants to go have, fertility treatments and have a litter of 8 kids or something like that. They don't seem to have a problem with that part of the whole, embryonic thing. But stem cell research that could, cure people with paralysis and stuff, we can't get behind that. But anyway, that's one of the things that those people have been saying for a couple of years now, is that we really don't need to get involved in embryonic stem cell research because there's this research out there that shows that adult stem cells can be just as effective, just as pluripotent, just as versatile. Well, this was a report that came out from the University of Minnesota that said they would be better. Well, it turns out the data was faked. Yeah, this is a big expose that a researcher there at the University of Minnesota was caught faking some of the research that would support the idea that adult stem cells were just as good as embryonic stem cells. So, so much for that one. Well, that's what happens when you get right-wingers trying to do science. Another thing that the right wing likes to bring out, we heard a lot of this from John W. McCain and all these guys, talking drill, baby, drill, when it was all about, we got to drill offshore, we got to drill offshore, we got to drill offshore and get us some more oil. We're completely addicted to oil, so the solution is to go get more oil. And so people like me would point out, hey, this oil drilling is kind of environmentally reckless, It caused a lot of problems. You have hurricanes like what we had with Rita, and we had Hurricane Katrina, and we had a lot of problems with those oil platforms. And guys like McCain were out there saying, no, there was not a single drop of oil spilled when Hurricane Katrina hit. Not a single platform, despite the fact the Minerals and Mining Service, showed that there were, hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil spilled. Just an update on that story. Hurricane Ike, just came through. And the information I have here says that 500,000 gallons of oil were spilled because of Hurricane Ike. The storm destroyed at least 52 oil platforms of the roughly 3,800 that are in the Gulf of Mexico, and 32 more were severely damaged. And also I'd read elsewhere that 3 of these oil platforms, gone, just disappeared. Don't exist anymore. No evidence of their existence. And this is what they think is safe and perfectly okay to do. Let's just go drill, baby, drill, and, hurricanes be damned, and who cares if oil slicks up some seabirds or some otters or something. Who cares? We got to have our oil Jones, right? These Republicans. Sure, nice to have this administration be over in the next 4 months, won't it? Now, one other story here in our free-for-all that definitely needs some reporting. You'll remember about the whole domestic spying that George W. Bush has been involved in, spying on Americans without warrants. And Bush always wants to talk about how, this is only going to be used against the terrorists. We're only going to spy on the terrorists.
What I'm talking about is the intercept of certain communications emanating between somebody inside the United States and outside the United States.
Oh, okay. Foreigners. Gotcha.
And one of the numbers would be a reasonably suspected to be an Al-Qaeda link or affiliate.
Only spying on Al-Qaeda. Gotcha.
In other words, we have ways to determine whether or not someone can be an Al-Qaeda affiliate or Al-Qaeda.
Oh, okay. We have a way of knowing.
And if they're making a phone call in the United States...
Yeah.
It seems like to me we want to know why.
Well, absolutely, sure.
This is, I repeat to you that, you hear words domestic spying. No, these are not phone calls within the United States. It's a phone call of a known Al-Qaeda suspect, making a phone call into the United States.
Okay, so forget about the whole domestic spying thing. It's just spying on Al-Qaeda. It's just the Al-Qaeda calling the United States, and we want to know what they're talking about. Well, the story that just came out here from ABC News, Brian Rost Investigation, has 2 whistleblowers from the National Security Agency. The National Security Agency, which pledged not to eavesdrop on conversations of U.S. citizens overseas. Don't worry, it won't count if you're calling your college student who's a Rhodes Scholar in Oxford. We're not talking about that. We're only going to spy on Al-Qaeda. They say, we're never going to make these private citizens, we're never going to involve the American citizens. Well, it turns out the NSA has been monitoring the calls, not just of private citizens, but we're talking about U.S. troops. That's right. Our U.S. troops who are calling their family back home. 2 whistleblowers are now claiming that private conversations, including so-called pillow talk, were not only spied on, but passed around the agency. Now, these 2 whistleblowers did not work at the same facility, and they did not know each other before reporting these incidents. So this is 2 independently verified whistleblowers saying this, that one whistleblower says he would say, hey, check this out. There's some good phone sex on this one, or pull it up. It's really funny. Check it out. It's some colonel making pillow talk. Hey, it's really funny, really funny. Yeah, not Al-Qaeda, not terrorism suspects. U.S. soldiers on a satellite phone calling home to talk to their husband or wife involved in some intimate, private communications. And by God, when you're out there in warfare, who wouldn't want to have some sort of conversation to lift your spirits and make you feel closer to someone that you miss so desperately in love? They're passing them around like they're YouTube videos, passing them around like a viral email. Hey, it's really funny, really funny. That is what's going on here in this domestic spying. So don't let the Bushies fool you with this one. They're not spying on Al-Qaeda. They're spying on you and me. I'm Radical Russ. We'll be right back. We got one more segment, our listener email segment at radicalruss@gmail.com. If you want to get your emails read on the air, radicalruss@gmail.com. We're right back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world, one light at a time.
the voice of the everyday American. It's time for Radical Russ. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back, everyone. 50 after the hour, as usual. 2 hours of show and 5 hours worth of material. So we get in as much as we can here on the show. But for more radical musings, check out my website, radicalruss.com. That's where I write down all the stuff I didn't have time to get out on the air. I also post a lot of the links to the stories that I bring up on the show. So if you want to look it up for yourself, and believe me, I encourage you to. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. That's what the Google is all about, is finding out what the truth is and getting it past any of the media filters that are out there. So look it up yourself, radicalruss.com. Also, was speaking earlier about my upcoming appearance at the Artists for Obama rally. That'll be Monday, October 20th in Portland, Oregon at the Wonder Ballroom at 7 p.m. You can get tickets by emailing peacevoice7@gmail.com. That's P-E-A-C-E, peacevoice number 7 at gmail.com if you're interested in getting tickets to that appearance. I'll be keynote speaking there. It should be a really great time. They got bands, they got poets and artists and all sorts of things for you to enjoy. Also, if you've got any other comments and you didn't get a chance to call in at 888-7-RADICAL, you can always send me an email at radicalruss@gmail.com. And in our last segment of our show is when we like to answer our listener email.
I don't like spam. Spam, 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 Bloody Vikings.
Oh, bloody Vikings. All right, last week on the show, I had talked a little bit about Sarah Palin, and it was a topic that had a lot to do with her tenure as mayor in Wasilla, Alaska, when she would charge women who were raped, victims of rape, charge them for their rape kits, right? The only city in Alaska that would do it. The Alaska legislature had to pass a law to get Wasilla to start paying for the rape kits. And she kind of hedged on it by saying, I would never oppose evidence gathering kits. Well, it's not the evidence gathering part. It's the emergency contraception part. And I started talking about this emergency contraception and why Sarah Palin would be against it, because she thinks emergency contraception is like abortion. And in trying to explain the situation, I misspoke a little bit. I had it right in my notes, but I was going real quick and I didn't look down quite right, and I misplaced a couple of words. So I got an email from Ann in Cincinnati, who's a registered nurse, and she says she's a great fan and listen every Saturday on the way home from work at Planned Parenthood here in Cincinnati. And knowing a little bit about Cincinnati, good on you for working at Planned Parenthood in Cincinnati. That's a pretty conservative area of the country. Anyway, she says she's a women's health practitioner for 10 years and knows a lot about contraception. And you said on the show that the morning after pill causes the fertilized embryo to pass out of the body, or words to that effect. Actually, Plan B, like all forms of hormonal contraception, prevent ovulation, so there's no egg to fertilize. There is no fertilized egg, there is no implantation, and therefore no abortion. That's the Plan B pill that comes in those rape kits that we were talking about up in Wasilla. And I did misstate it a bit as saying that it caused the egg to not implant. It's not true. The egg doesn't get there is no egg, right? It prevents the ovulation. So it's ridiculous to oppose that, even if you are pro-life, even if you are the kind of person who believes that all life begins at conception. The Plan B pill doesn't allow the conception to happen. Now, there is another medication, the RU486, the misoprostol pill, the abortion pill, whatever they call it. That does cause a fertilized implanted embryo to abort up to 9 weeks of pregnancy, but that's not given in the rape kits. That's not part of that situation. That's more at a doctor's office because there's some severe complications that can happen. There's a lot of bleeding can occur, so it's very rarely used. But the Plan B that's in the rape kits, it's just an extra strong dose of regular old birth control, and it's available over the counter, so there's no reason that Sarah Palin should have been opposing that. And Ann in Cincinnati finishes off by saying, keep up the good work, and I hope I didn't anger you too much by correcting you. No, not at all. In fact, please do correct me. If I make a mistake, please send me an email. I'll be the first one to correct my mistakes. I'm doing the best I can here at this job, and I'm working hard like a lot of you Americans out there, but I'm not perfect. I'm going to make a mistake from time to time, and if I do, feel free to call me out on it. Now, I get another email. Rick emails me and says, I looked up maverick in the dictionary and realized that John McCain fits the definition of maverick. If you're looking at definition number 2 in his Webster's dictionary that says maverick, to obtain by dishonest or questionable means. Good point. I guess maybe there's some maverick in the old man after all. I get another email here. Marcia in Oregon. Marcia tells me, liberal progressive talk show hosts make me so blasted mad. They give the American people way too much credit for having anything resembling brains. Sarah Palin is way too perfect for the dumb, brain-dead citizens of this dumbed-down country that used to be the leader of the free world. She's a total idiot. This woman gives squash heads the idea that they could get the job. Who in their right mind would want someone with brains, a first-rate education, and knowledge of the Constitution to be president or vice president? Sarah Palin is an insult. It was an insult for Joe Biden to have to debate a junior high school cheerleader that flunked the 7th grade. Oh, Marcia, don't hold back. Well, look. Oh, snap! Yeah, look. There is a point to be made about the ignorance of some of the American people. But the American people are good people, and a lot of this is the fault of the decimation of our educational system, of no longer having, the time or the funding in these classes to be able to have decent education for our students to understand what's going on in their civics, in their government, in their political processes. The kids don't get that anymore in their schools. They don't get a good education in the process of the Constitution and the law and a lot of the history that they need to make informed decisions in this country. Let's not blame the American people in general so much for this, Marcia. Let's blame a little bit of our education system and a lot on that right-wing echo chamber on talk radio and throughout the news that continues to foster these ignorant and sometimes hateful opinions among people. All right, Eric, got a couple more here we can get in. Eric says, I love your sub-media exposés combined with hard-hitting critical analysis, especially of Palaban. I guess that's Sarah Palin, right? Palaban. That's a good one. I like that. And Vincent, Illinois, talks about the voting. This one's voting for that one graphic that I've got on my website. He says that was brilliant. He loves the graphic and says it's the lowest kind of disrespect, a personal jibe, but not only an insult to Obama, but also an insult to the United States Senate. Another example of McCain's apparent contempt for anyone who hasn't been inside a Vietnamese prison. Here's to hoping he gets shot down a second time in November. Ooh, Vince. All right, thanks. Absolutely. Thank you, Vincent, Illinois, and all the listeners to the Russ Belville Show. Thank you for making us the fastest growing, most popular new progressive talk radio live on the weekends. We're here every weekend, same time, same channel, 888-7-RADICAL. Check us out at radicalruss.com. Email me, radicalruss@gmail.com. I'm out of here. Peace.